Road toll, not good. We know that. 3-year high. 253 people died so far this year. That's 54 more than this time last year. And we're about to hit one of the most dangerous periods on the roads for the holiday season and Christmas. In the studio with me is the new Assistant Commissioner for Road Policing, taking over from Stephen Lean, who has gone off to be Speed Camera Commissioner. Assistant Commissioner Libby Murphy, good morning.
Good morning, Neil. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Ever had a ticket?
Yes.
What for?
3 Ks over the speed limit. Salutary lesson, though, I suppose. Yeah, I have. That was probably about 10 years ago, so I suppose from 30 years of driving, 1 ticket, but a bit of a lesson for me. A lesson to be learned about distraction and, the importance of paying attention when you're on the roads.
Yeah, you've been in the job all your career, working career, have you?
Yes.
Much to do with the road toll, out in the streets?
Yeah, I come from a pretty operational background, so a long history of having to attend fatals, knocking on doors, telling people that people have died in car accidents, not a good thing to do, it's pretty sad.
Does it stay with you?
Of course, yeah, it does. And I don't think you could say that something didn't impact you when you go to those things.
What is the one that stays in your mind?
Probably 2 things, I think. One, I was involved in a pursuit where a young boy was killed, and that was probably 29 years ago. A stolen car hit him. And then...
How old was he?
5. Yep.
And you're just behind that car?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then I've also been to a quadruple fatal at a place called Pylong.
Oh, I know Pylong. What does that say to you?
In terms of... Sorry, I'm not...
What does it say to you in terms of the job you now have?
They're terrible things to see, and what it says to me is that we've still got a long way to go. We're 253 people who aren't turning up at the Christmas table this year. It doesn't just impact them; it impacts their families, the trauma that it causes. It impacts our members who have to go to these jobs. It impacts communities. You've got people on SES trucks who do extraction. So it tells me I've got a long way to go to make sure that we reduce and reduce and reduce.
All the things you've said are spot on, are correct, but we've been saying them for years.
Yeah.
And they're not, this year at least, they're not working. What do we do?
Well, I suppose the biggest challenge for me at the moment, but being day 4 in the job, is to actually just get through this Christmas and New Year period without another person dying on the roads. So,
do you really think that's achievable?
I do, actually. I think it's achievable if people pay attention and, are aware. I want to be quite clear that, it's really hard to get the message through, but you can do it collectively as a community, and I think that we can do it with, if footy club people are drinking and celebrating at the end of the year, we know that they're obviously not playing footy. It's not footy season, but if they're there with their mates, check your mates. Don't allow them to get in the car after they've been drinking, and understand that anything that you do on the roads has an impact on other road users. I think it's achievable. Have etiquette, listen, pay attention. I liked your caller who called in last week, I think, with his idea about mobile phones. Put it in the glove box, put it in the boot. I don't think that's such a bad idea. It's just about being aware, and I think it's achievable.
Interesting point. We've been all doing it this week, and you do become aware. And today I got in the car and I thought, what day is it? Is it Boot Thursday? And I couldn't quite remember. I put the phone in the back seat. Now, I wouldn't normally touch it anyway. I've got Bluetooth and everything. But it forced me to think about it. So I wasn't going to stop at the traffic. And this is the middle of the night. I wasn't going to stop at the traffic lights and check the emails or something. Yeah.
It is actually just being about aware of your behaviour and your impact on others. Distraction happens quite easily, and I'm a lesson in that. And for 83 kilometres over, obviously distracted and not paying attention.
83?
3 kilometres over. So it was 83 kilometres in an 80 zone.
That's the agreed speed. You're actually going 86, weren't you?
85, I think.
85. Okay.
And then they cut 2 back, I think, in the 80 zone, or when that I think that's what it was.
Well, it's a long time ago.
Time ago. But, so if people pay attention and are aware, then I absolutely think it's achievable. I don't want there to be another 12 deaths, and that's what we had last year. So 12 people died over the Christmas New Year period last year.
What is the main problem? Is it alcohol? Is it speed? I know we'll say all these things. Is it the phones and distraction? If you can change one thing and have a big impact, what is it? I
actually think it's the phones, but I really do. I do a lot of kilometres every day. I'm doing at least 250 kilometres a day. I see people on country roads. I see people on metropolitan roads, and I actually see people on phones. And I'm not sure how to get that message through. It'll be a focus for me, but I'm probably imploring people, please don't pick up your phone. You know, you've got this opportunity to actually save lives. And then, Sorry, Neil. And the other thing probably for me is seatbelts. So 12% of our fatalities for this year have been people not wearing seatbelts. You know, this law came in 1970. We have technology that pretty much on most cars now actually tells us that you're not wearing a seatbelt, and people are making really poor choices. And I'm again imploring, please just put your seatbelt on. These lives are, lives are valuable, and we can actually save people.
That's extraordinary. I don't know how anybody can drive without putting a seatbelt on. It feels awkward. Mobile phones, I know Cabinet's been discussing the possibility of increased penalties. Would you support increased penalties? I
would support anything that actually saved lives on our roads. So I think that's a matter for government, but anything that would save lives, yes, we're happy with that. I don't think penalties are the thing alone, but I think that we've got opportunities through research basis to actually tell us how to stop people using them.
Do you remember how many we actually booked last year for using the phones? About 34?
I think we're at about 35,000.
In New South Wales, they tested their new cameras that pick the mobile phones. They were getting 50. They got 50,000 in 6 months at one site.
It's a lot of destruction.
Two sites, 100,000.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it shows that we're not booking anywhere near the number of people who are doing it, surely.
Well, I suppose it does, but it's an interesting piece, though. So if you look at it in the sense of the opportunity to save lives, there's lots of opportunity there. We're up 9% from last year of people who have been booked for using mobile phones. So to me, that is the lesson to be learnt from this, that, people are still doing it and they're not hearing the message. So we've got enforcement's a good opportunity.
Well, these cameras, the mobile phone cameras and the new cameras, they released them yesterday. We've been talking about them for a few weeks, that are much more sophisticated. Are they game changers?
I'm hoping so. Anything that is a game changer would be good. I think, so we've got 2,000 mobile sites across the state, but if there's an opportunity to enforce more, I think that is a game changer. The research suggests that enforcement is a good thing. So
what do you think about
time will tell.
What do you think about the campaign by the industrial campaign by members to sit at mobile cameras and flash their lights to slow people down? They won't be booked because they'll get the message, and they'll be in marked cars often. What do you think of that?
I actually don't have a problem with it. Anything that actually stops poor road user behaviour, reduces people who are speeding, I'm all for it. So it's not if it keeps the community safe, then that is the important thing for me.
You don't care about the revenue?
No. I care about road user behaviour and saving lives.
We'll take a break, come back with more in a moment. The new Assistant Commissioner for Road Policing, Libby Murphy. Get to calls in a moment. It's not fair to expose her to calls day one, but we will get to calls and your reactions and ideas in a moment. 96900 693 13 13 32. Do we have to bring speed limits down?
I don't necessarily advocate for bringing speed limits down, although there's sufficient research to talk about, impacts and greater speeds if you hit trees and things like that. So that's really important to note. I know that you had a discussion, I think it was with Adrian White last week, in relation to Mornington reducing, speed limits.
Geez, the media monitoring's working well.
Adrian was one of my members before I transferred into this role this week. Yes. So, and he's a great advocate for road safety. He's really good. So I think the point is to be conscious and aware and drive to conditions. So I don't necessarily advocate always bringing the speed limits down, but understand the roads. And as I've said to you, I'm fairly passionate about, rural roads as well. And a lot of people have been dying on our roads this year in rural settings, and they're actually country people.
What about wire barriers?
Wire barriers, there's certainly sufficient research, and I can talk to, in a previous role, we had a number of fatalities in an area up around Molesworth and Yea, and since the barriers have been installed up there through a commitment through Vic Roads and policing and a safe systems approach, there haven't been any lives lost along that area.
There's a real passion about it, there's a real argument about it, some heat in it.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of heat in it, but I suppose from my perspective, and again, saying I'm day 4 in the job, I actually need to consult with experts. So we have our research partners. So anything that I will do will be on an evidence basis. But for me, it's all about safety, and that's going to be my focus.
Double demerit points
Yep.
on long weekends, etc., or weekends.
Again, I know that other states have that, but I don't necessarily. Advocate for or against it. But again, it's about whether we're safe and what that brings to road user behaviour.
I was talking to several senior police recently who believe, and I think Stephen Lean's one of them actually, believes the blood alcohol level will come down. The legal level will come down to 0.03, which really puts you in a position to be mad to have a drink. I mean, you can get to 0.03 very quickly.
Yep.
Do you think we need to look at that?
Again, working with research partners, I wouldn't advocate either or at this stage, but I suppose for me the point is, if you think that one drink is going to put you over 0.05, don't have a drink at all. Like it's not rocket science. If you have to think and question yourself about whether you're going to get in a car and am I likely to be over the limit, then just don't do it.
Yeah, I wonder if zero alcohol is the way we're going. What do you think?
Yeah, don't know. Again, working with research partners, it could be, but we've got this focus on breath tests and alcohol in our blood system. But an emerging fact for us is actually about drug driving. And you speak to, and I'm not sure who it was, but there's a senior sergeant up at Murrindindi by the name of Mark Hesse, and he spoke on the media the other day. You spoke to him. He's a great country policeman, but if you're getting 25% of people who are tested drug driving, then we've got a serious problem.
Well, it's true. We've got a lot of work to do, though, haven't we, on levels of impairment and how you can enforce that. But that work is being done. I'm aware of that. I think that covers just about everything I wanted, but the question comes up all the time. Are police allowed to use phones when they're driving?
There's an exemption for operational reasons, so each incident would have to be looked at on its own merits. So it's not a collective thing where I can say yes or no, because if it was a part of the exemption of the law, then they could do it, but I'd have to judge each instance on its own merits.
And what's the policy on pursuits?
More broadly, or?
Yeah, more broadly. I mean, what speed can they do, or is it their assessment as to whether it's safe? Can they get up to significant speeds in a pursuit?
Everything is about risk assessing at the time. So it's a continuum of risk assessment. So more broadly, you would have to judge, the weather factors, the other road users who are around. So it's not a specific piece, but everything about policing is about risk assessments and about community safety.
Well, you mentioned earlier being involved in a pursuit where the car you were chasing killed a 5-year-old. Anybody who's been involved in that situation feels it, as you said. But do you then assess yourself and say, was it partly my fault because I was pursuing the car?
Of course you do. I don't think you would be human and not ask that question. So, it's and it's probably a good message for the community. We talk about police decisions, but police decisions are actually made and quite quickly, and we've got to risk assess in a quick situation. But I don't want police members in Victoria or anyone else to actually have the experience that I had.
Were you driving?
Yes.
What speed, do you know?
I think from memory, and it was 29 years ago, I think it was about 80, so not high speed. But the car mounted the gutter and the young boy was walking on the footpath.
You a good driver?
I'd like to think I am, but I don't think I'm invincible, and I think that's part of, saving lives. I often see, and I bemoan, I've got 16-year-old Darcy, and then, I've got a goddaughter, Chloe, who, I panic when they get in cars.
Is your 16-year-old have L plates by now, I suppose?
Yeah.
Are you going to teach him?
Oh, I'll try to. Yeah.
What do you think about defensive driving courses? Another bugbear of mine for the past 30 years. I don't think we teach people to drive properly. If the kid doesn't... To pass a licence is easy. I redid one not all that long ago, and it was easy.
Yeah. I think anything that improves, your driving ability, I would absolutely advocate for. So I don't think it's something, I think it's a personal choice of whether you do that. But of course, if it improves your driving, then absolutely.
Well, I'd love to see it compulsory for 6 months after they get their licence. Anyway, we can pursue that when you've had the feet under the desk a bit longer. Just an instinctive reaction to this, though, and I talk to Joe Calafiore often from the TAC. The full-on shock 'em approach or softly, what do you think works?
Oh, interesting. I watched a video the other day, which was a compilation of TAC videos over the years. And again, and in hindsight, you actually remember them all. But when they're in a collective thing, it's quite shocking. And I certainly shared it with the kids.
So you think the shock thing works?
I think some of it does, but I think softly does too, because I think we have the ability to change road user behaviour through a number of methods. People learn differently.
Having been, sorry to keep coming back to it, but being involved in that pursuit that ended with a fatal, did that change your driving? I think that
I think it made me more aware. But I don't want other people to become more aware because someone's
they're involved
dead.
in a fatality.
Yeah.
Have you? I suppose you've been involved in a pursuit since.
Yes.
Would it be in your mind?
Well, I think it's always on your mind. It forms part of your risk assessment. And I suppose for me, I can actually talk to members about pursuits and the impacts that they have, and then, the experience of going through a coroner's hearing, cross-examination, those sorts of things. So it's not... no one wants to see anyone die on our roads, but sometimes road users behave poorly enough that, we do have to pursue them.
I've known over the years a lot of people out at major collision or whatever it's called these days, where, of course, they investigate the really, really nasty stuff. They say, fortunately, they tend to turn up after the horror. Mm-hmm. That's the person in the divvy van who turns up to the smell and the screaming and the burning and all these awful things. But they're very fragile at times, some of them, and they talk about going home to their kids after a particularly bad one, and it's the middle of the night and they've knocked off at 4 a.m. and they go in and check the kids are okay. What's your advice to your son Darcy on the roads?
My advice to him is actually the same advice I'd give to anyone who's on the road. Have some etiquette. Don't always be in a hurry. It's about driving safely, driving to the conditions, and being aware and being considerate of other road users.
He's 16. Will he listen?
Hopefully.
That's the problem, though. You know everything at 16, don't you?
Oh, they like to think they do, but hindsight's a wonderful thing, Neil.
Very good to meet you. If we can do anything to help, we will. I really wish you well in the job. Why'd you become a copper?
I don't know. Interestingly, I'm not quite sure why. It's a fabulous job, and we're recruiting. So anyone who would like to come on board, please do.
I don't know about the ad that says work-life balance. I don't know about that.
Oh yeah, I know. But there's a lot of opportunity in policing. It's a great job. We have some wonderful members. They're out there doing stuff on a day-to-day basis. They're looking after people. They're about community safety, and it's just a great job. I love it.
I wish you well. Please let us know if we can help. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Assistant Commissioner Road Policing, Libby Murphy. Your ideas in a moment.